Paladins Summer Finals. My name is LaTigers, here with the voice himself, Vox, ready for the next match. Yeah.
We are ready, indeed. And it's going to be a bit of a doozy. We've already seen one of the teams so far today, seen one of them yesterday as well. Armada versus Fnatic. It's going to be quite an impressive one.
Yeah, taking a look at the bracket, everything that we've seen so far, we know that Armada did defeat their opponent's Wolfpack in that round earlier, and now we'll be facing off against Fnatic. We also saw Clown Fiesta and Kangan. Even though it was a 2-0, it was actually really close.
Yeah, the games were a lot closer than I think really the scoreline does justice to, right? So Kanga Esports being able to box out quite well, though, with Clown Fiesta, who few little mistakes here and there, but otherwise look very strong. Armada versus Wolfpack, I don't think we saw enough out of that set to really have a litmus test as to how Armada is going to match up versus these very strong teams. We saw them pretty much dumpster Wolfpack. There's no nice way to say it. Can they do the same thing to Fnatic? Something tells me no, unless maybe Brightmarsh gets through the draft.
Was there anybody on that roster particularly that impressed you the most from Armada?
Always Ovum. Just the way that in which Ovum plays Inara specifically is ridiculous. He's second highest damage, maybe even top damage in a lot of the games, and it's just so consistent with that as well. I think that's definitely something that, whilst I don't think Fnatic will see Armada as much of a threat, that's something which they need to really take into account and just be wary of. Just be wary that this has the potential to maybe give you more trouble than you might expect. Don't take him lightly. It
was cool to see that Inara play. You get so used to seeing her just on the point that you think, oh, she can move? What?
She's not a statue.
She's not just there, standing in peace?
She's not AFK in base? Well, this is different to my rank games.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Inara was just a statue. I mean, how do you get her from her to the point? You just have to kind of put her on the back of a horse and cart and drag her there, leave it. It's like, all right, you stay there. We'll pick you up again if we need you.
But speaking of frontline play, they're going against someone with Theo, who is tremendous in that role. They've got Bugsy, who's flexed on it as well. Fnatic, and coming into this with a fresh new plate for them.
Fnatic were looking scary yesterday. I mean, they did take the L to G2 in those overall finals, but fighting off against Na'Vi, not much trouble. And in a region, sure, the CIS is technically a separate region for the PGS, but these are players which play against a lot of European players frequently on the live servers. They're all kind of bundled into the same big overall region, so they have a lot of practice with each other. I'm expecting there to be enough familiarity here that we're going to see an interesting matchup.
Well, let's go ahead and hear what some of the thoughts Fnatic had to say going into this match against Armada. Welcome back, guys. Good to have you here for the summer portion of the LAN. It's a new day. How are you feeling just going from yesterday's games to now where everything is reset?
Today's a new day, so we just take it as a whole new tournament. We go in fresh, and yesterday happened, but that's not relevant for today anymore, so it's a new tournament, new beginning.
First team that you're facing off against today is Armada. So I just want to know, did you get to catch the set and have any thoughts on their play?
We did watch the game. We watched like the second portion of it, and we also played them, not often, but we have played them in Europe as well as scrim partners. So we do know them, we know how they play. Nothing too extraordinary from what we can tell.
Yeah, I watched the games, but I didn't really pay much attention. So yeah, so I didn't have much to say.
You gotta get your mind in
for
your set coming up. Now, yesterday we got to see a lot of cool compositions from you, just switching things up and a lot of versatility. So would you say having that versatility, which you've always had, but it seemed to be even more in this case, is that something you focused on coming into this LAN?
Yeah, I mean, right now there's not really a specific meta because almost anything can work. So being flexible and pulling out whatever you need is important.
Yeah, previously we've always stick to the same kind of comp all the time, and now we just we figure we need to play everything that's available in the game to really understand what works and what doesn't work, and also we can respond to any enemy comp as well.
Well, I'm excited to see what else you bust out in these games, so have fun in your matches, fellas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the responses we heard from Fnatic are pretty typical, where they always have their eyes on their prize and they don't seem to be as worried when going against these non-PPL teams.
They don't have the eyes on the game from the sound of it, as they're really just, you know, like, well, we tune in for the second half, but we're not too worried about it. They know what they're going to be mostly up against, and they don't think that any adaptation which Armada is going to bring under LAN conditions is going to be much of a threat to them. And to be fair, I don't expect anything different from Fnatic right now. They've always been very confident going into these matches. They don't have a precedent of why they shouldn't be. And even if Armada does something to take them by surprise, there's no reason that why Fnatic wouldn't be able to just adapt, change up, and just, even if they go down one game, take the win.
It's one of those things where they seem to have, as you said, their eyes past it, but yeah, you can't blame them for historically speaking, that's where they've been approaching this from.
Pretty
and
much, it's the normal. It's hard to say whether it's well-placed confidence or at times could be taken as cockiness or overconfidence. And it would be interesting to see if maybe one of these PGS teams could pull them down a peg or two and put them back on the same level. But I think that really requires them to step up rather than Fnatic to step down here, and that's not something they're willing to do. They've been some of the best players in the world for a long time for good reason.
So consistent in their play and online, and then even though they didn't take up the win before at the end of yesterday, still looking great, and we'll have to see where we're going for our first map of this match. Remember, these are just best of threes today, meaning that every moment counts. You can't really drop a game and then think, I have a little bit of time to recover.
That's why, Armada does have that surprise potential. They got that fifth element factor here, and they could bring out something unexpected, but Fnatic immediately bans Brightmarsh, goes, we just don't want to deal with it. And I think actually Fnatic remarked yesterday that they weren't really prepared for a Brightmarsh strategy. That's why Na'Vi managed to take them the swing in that set yesterday. So they just go, we're just not going to play this map specifically. Armada bans Ascension Peak. Off to Jaguar Falls for the first of today.
Though, interestingly enough, Jaguar Falls has some similarities to Brightmarsh.
Yeah, but it's a Fnatic long-time favorite, and I think that's the main difference here. And coming in as the highest seed into this Fnatic with the first map pick, choice of first pick as well. It's where they feel comfortable. It's where they want to take it. Armada started off last time with Serpent Beach and, well, banning away the buck immediately. I wonder if they'll have the same pick prioritization. Very heavy Bomb King prioritization by Armada previously.
Yeah, I love the fact that Armada, they're bringing a lot of things that they're comfortable with, but I want to see how they respond to what they've been seeing from these other teams so far, because it's that balance of what works for us. We don't have to force our strategy into anything else just because other people are running this, but at the same time, you do have to be very aware in how to play against it, at least.
I do feel like they do have that slight advantage right now. They've seen Fnatic play 2 sets already, and so they do have the opportunity to adapt a little bit, and they've had some experience now with Wolfpack. I think, again, that was more cementing their strategies work rather than anything else, and I hope that they're able to take that and what we've seen from Fnatic in combination. So Fnatic banning Makoa here as well.
Both strong picks for Fnatic that they banned away. It says they're going for a different strategy. We're not going to be taking these, so
yeah,
we don't want you taking them either.
Well, it's difficult. It's difficult for Armada right now because they go, do we ban Khan or do we ban Furia here, or do they look for something else as well? Willow has been a popular ban against Fnatic because they've been able to utilize that quite well, but Armada go ahead and they ban out the Furia. They've seen how devastating that was yesterday, but Fnatic just pick up Khan, which leaves Armada a little bit in trouble here. I'm expecting them to go into anti-heal potential right off the bat, maybe grabbing the Leon, maybe grabbing the Willow. And it's actually the Inara which they want to secure before anything else here.
On this map is where Oven playing Inara was very aggressive in his positioning, not even worrying about the capture because he knew a teammate was up to that so that he could force himself forward with that high HP pool. But having that additional threat of Bomb King, keeping that prioritization, who has a lot of navigability on this map.
Yeah, I feel like Armada is valuing comfort picks right now, which is kind of where you might have to go if you're playing up against Fnatic. Fnatic is valuing utility more than anything else. That's the big thing which we've been noticing. Again, it's all about what you can get from your picks beyond just how much frag potential they bring. It's what do you have in terms of anti-heal? What do you have in terms of disruption? What do you have in terms of re-engagement potential? And so with that in mind, they'll grab the Fernando here to make sure they're able to withstand that King Bomb potential. Pick up a Cassie as well to get some secure damage online. Taking that away from Echo is also not a bad move.
I do agree with Armada going with these comfort picks, though, because when you're going against a team like Fnatic where you cannot rely on them making mistakes, then you have to...
Right, don't dance to that tune. Play your own game, and even if that's maybe not the most effective one, if it's the one you know, I mean, it's the one you might have to go with to have a chance at taking a game off one of these giants here. So I would still expect Armada to maybe look towards a Lian or something here. They do leave Willow open. That Fnatic could pick that up as a blaster potentially. And that could do a lot of damage to Armada. And here's the Lian Hover. Genos as well seems to be maybe the more obvious choice right now, just for the map of Jaguar Falls. It's slightly safer, as we've remarked before, and that forces Fnatic to maintain line of sight more frequently, which means that Lian will be more effective overall.
So they don't have that Dumba from prior that they did in an earlier game, but the Jenners can still assist a lot of these other champions and leaning into their win conditions. Small Dumba being picked up by Fnatic as that other option. They go with the Willow as well.
The thing is, you now got Inara who wants to sit on point with Janus, who doesn't have much, who has throughput healing, and you got a dead zone that you got to contest with, and that's just a problem. Drafting Barrack into that as well, it's you're playing into the point stack dismantler of Willow with quite literally a point stack composition. I'm not so sure I feel comfortable and confident in what Armada's doing. We'll have to see how they play around the peripheral more than anything else. Can they deal with the Willow? Can they find the Cassie? Will they be able to turn the tide on for Nando, who's probably going to try and go all flank Nando on them, and maybe then they're able to collapse, or will by that time it already be too late?
Because Willow and Maldamba will have great control of the actual objective, so on the opposite team, trying to take care of those outside avenues to hopefully break through that line. But Fnatic and Armada, they are ready to roll, and so are we. Casters, take it.
Well, now we're getting into our first very skewed matchup here between the undefeated, almost year-long online undefeated champions of Fnatic out of the EU PPL against Armada. And I think during that post-game interview with Armada, talking a little bit about their feelings of this matchup and just reading their faces, Gore, you can see they're laughing, they're smiling, their expectations are not very high. And I feel like, if anything, that just bodes well for Armada, because if something goes bad for Fnatic, right, then Fnatic are like, uh-oh, gosh, what's going on here? And Armada are just that much more excited to be here and actually getting some strides in against a great team like Fnatic.
And I'm kind of curious to know how Fnatic's feeling, because yesterday didn't exactly go the way I think they envisioned it, but it's one of those things that, can you put that behind you and just be like, okay, well, we didn't get it yesterday, we'll just go for the win here. Coming into this one feeling a little bit more refreshed, I think, is more important really for them than it is for Armada.
And boy, what a lineup Fnatic do have here. Thiel on Fernando, Bugsy on Khan, Fishy on Willow, Tenor on Cassie, Gera on Damba. All things good, but to be quite honest, Armada, I think, should be feeling pretty good about their lineup as well. First blood, nonetheless, and second blood, nonetheless, will fall the way of Fnatic.
Bidner on Cassie's been deadly pretty much all day yesterday. And I expect we're going to continue seeing it today. I mean, 3 kills. He gets all 3 of them.
Sure
so
does.
He's setting himself up for victory. I don't know if we'll see, well, might speak too soon. Yesterday he was going 10-1. Not sure we'll see that again, but that's definitely the path he set himself for.
It's a tough road back up for Armada. 57% on the objective so far for Fnatic. Armada looking for a way back in, but Bugsy is right there to meet him. Ovum is just going to blow right by the Khan. Tenor will roll right through the Warder's field, and Kind looking for one more shot onto the King. This might be a turnaround kill, and it will be. Jaguar Falls as well as Tenor. That's 2-0 in favor of Armada.
Now Fasheko really low, but does have potential. Once he starts getting that little bit of passive healing, he can get aggressive again, but they're locked in the corner.
This is going to be good for maybe another 2 kills, and it will. Echoes and Ovum combined, and just like that, Armada have turned this one on its head. 90% for Fnatic, but they've got 2 dead, and Armada moving north of 90%.
Looking to dash in. That's going to be a great Void Grip to hold him up in the air. Bugsy not going to touch down and just dies to put icing on that cake.
This is exactly what I was talking about, Gore, when I said if things don't go well for Fnatic off the gate, they're the ones that have to wake up and be like, uh-oh. Whereas if Fnatic take that first point, you know, Armada's just going to be, they'll shrug it off. Yeah, we're going to do our best here today. But now, this has got to be vitalizing to them.
I mean, going back to what Fnatic had said is that they've played Armada before. They said they scrimmed them, but they weren't looking at this match. They were looking beyond. They were going forward. And I feel like that's kind of the same Fnatic we got going into Vegas. And that's when things really start to fall apart for them, is when they do recognize that maybe the match in front of you actually is more important than what you're giving it the weight for.
And they're getting obliterated again, Gormizer. 4-0. Bugsy, if he doesn't make it back into spawn, it'll be a 5-0, and he barely makes it across the finish line. Armada are having their way with Fnatic at the moment. Granted, they're spending ultimates, but it's working.
It's worthwhile as well, because, I mean, for some of them, they're going to have the Dome Shield. They're going to have Enlightenment going into the next round as long as they hold on to those. Dome Shield going to get popped right now. They're looking to try and get the 2-0 with comeback mechanic. Fnatic should be able to take a point, but this is not how this fight was originally supposed to go.
The Flamethrower is not going to be good for a kill onto the King. Oh my goodness, what are we witnessing? Armada with a 2-0 lead over Fnatic. Fnatic don't spend anything, but they give up yet another 3-0 at the end there. And just no responses from the EU PPL champs.
I'm going to have to give myself a little bit of smackdown. I've been looking at Latin America as the PGS team to come through. Burrito. I've been looking at Space Station Gaming. I haven't given as much weight to Armada. That is more of a wake-up call. I want to say for Fnatic than I think anything they could have had yesterday. Losing to G2 is one thing. But then getting 2-0'd right now at the beginning, you can tell their faces. They're not out of it, but they definitely aren't very happy with the way things have been going.
Well, every dog has their day in Armada with a 2-0 lead. I can't imagine this is feeling like anyone else's day besides theirs. 2-0, Nalubka, Ekos 3-0, 5-1 for OM. Nobody with any more than 2 deaths to their name. Coriel on the Barrack, the highest on that counter. But what a start. Fnatic, they have all their ultimates to try and bring this one back, and I have to imagine that they will be able to find a way to do so.
Nice bombs already, and good control coming out. You can see Fnatic, I think, are approaching this a little bit differently. There's Coriel tossed off the map, so that's going to be one frontline presence removed, and Armada already down 2.
And I mean, this duo of Tenor and Bugsy has been so crucial to that first 3 kills for Fnatic, and it looked nigh unstoppable. So I think if they just continue to lean on that, and then have Theo just sort of poke around with a freedom that he's really not used to, Gore. Normally he has to give peel to everyone. He has to be where everyone else needs him to be instead of where he wants to go and where he wants to try and find a weakness. So Fnatic, they are going to capture that one through rather easily with the comeback mechanic. But it's a stylistic approach that I'm looking for, or a stylistic adjustment, I think I should say, that I am looking for out of Fnatic to really have the dominance in this matchup that I think we all expected.
And in my mind, it does go back to what you had said. This is really on Fnatic to make the mistakes. Like Bittner, does he need to take that fight? Does he need to position himself in that way? Or does that end up actually costing them a lot more? It's those small things. I think that's where in round number 1, Armada were able to turn it around just because, okay, Bittner takes one step too far forward, Bomb King gets one extra hit onto him, and now they're able to find that kill. They're able to push forward with it and stop Fnatic at that point from capturing the point. Here, they're stopping them from even touching the payload for a little bit, and that's just buying them time. Only 45 seconds so far, but that can turn into minutes.
And I mean, let's talk about the Bomb King a little bit, Goremizer, like you just touched on. This is Ineffable's Bomb King. He has been incredible so far today on his, what we're now calling power pick. He's got a Luminary Genos backing him up, making him one of the most lethal 1v1 fighters in the realm. Now, Fnatic have to be able to respect that. These guys, they all play ranked amongst each other, right? Ineffable has a ton of respect in the EU ranked scene. He's played against these Fnatic players online at times, so this is not a player that they want to be sleeping on.
And then when you couple it with Ekaz and Ovum here, it just makes it so much more deadly because he's not dying. He's not having the focus turned on to him because if you look at him, Leon starts hitting you. If you look away from either of them, Ovum is in your face. You don't really have a place where you feel safe, and I think that's really playing into his strengths. He's just kind of sitting on the side, pelting them with bombs consistently, and now he has that King Bomb charged up. Even though Fnatic grabbed that point, this payload has not moved really at all.
Despite that incredible start for Bittner, one of the best DPS players in the world, it is Ineffable leaving the damage charts by a couple of thousand of points. Now, they are on the back foot this time. Fnatic is starting to show a little bit more signs of life. 35 seconds on the clock here in this second round. Fnatic just trying to even up the score because if they fail to convert this payload, Goremizer, it will result in a defensive point for Armada, and they will go up 3-1.
As of right now, as long as they're taking this fight, Ineffable has the high ground. He has a lot of good control here as well. The projectiles just pretty much flying right onto where Bugsy and Bittner are standing, so keeping a lot of control and a lot of damage onto them. There's 10 seconds left. They still have to make it through the main arch. That's very difficult to push through on this map.
Last couple of seconds here. Last chance to dance for Fnatic. They have plenty of ultimates to work with, but it's not a question of what they have, it's a question of what they will use. Tenor, he finds a 1-for-1 trade right out of the gate here. Armada and Fnatic still battling neck and neck in overtime. Armada fighting for a defensive point, and Fnatic just trying to even the score.
Keeping them separated and relatively low. A couple of good shots from the respawned Bomb King could make a big difference right here. Nice Grumpy Bomb again. The control is going to be what affords them a lot, but they have to be very careful leaving this base.
This is looking like a high efficiency offense from Fnatic. Not a single ultimate used so far. And they've crept this payload closer and closer, now just inches from conversion, inches from evening up the score here. Tenor finds the frag, Pasheka with a beautiful angle, and Theo ever present on the payload will push it through, will even the score. Fnatic back in the game.
This is one of those few moments where I would say that's actually better for Armada.
Nice snag.
It's unfortunate in the sense that, well, now they have to deal with Fnatic being at the same ground. One more push could end up ending the game. But it's fortunate because the last time, if you give Fnatic comeback mechanic, they're going to win the point. They know how to control it at least long enough for that. This is going to make it a little bit more akin to round number 1, a little bit more items, a little bit more playstyle knowledge. But I think Armada have at least that little bit of a leg up, both teams having pretty much all of their ultimates available going into it.
And Gore, as we get later into these late game itemizations, Cauterized 2s, Record 2s coming online, is there any one of these compositions that you start to prefer given the late game itemization?
I mean, with the healing that they're going to have coming out on the side of Fnatic, I think it's going to be a lot more difficult to kill anyone who's coupled with Bugsy, especially when he's getting picks like that this early on.
And it is going to be the Sacrificial Lamb Coriel again, the unfortunate recipient of the Overpower ultimate, Bugsy. making it nice and easy for his team to grab another early first blood, but that's just how it goes. The Khan ultimate has very little counterplay. Here comes the King Bomb, forcing the Immortal, but Ineffable is not putting himself in any danger. That King Bomb was purely just to force out the defensive options from Fnatic and bait them into Immortal.
Now being able to go forward, Theo, shield up, but his health bar going down as it is right now. Aggressive, but that's going to be the Dread Serpent. Might actually save him. He still goes down, but they're causing a lot of trouble for Armada.
Kill feed, my goodness gracious. There's 6, 7 kills filling up in this kill feed. Bugsy falling lower and lower. Coriel back in action on the Barrack. He's got his Genos healing him as well. He's looking for the angle onto the support. He wants it, but Bugsy is not going to let him have it.
Now being able to push forward, that gives him a lot of aggression. The Lubka, the next one to go down. Ovim left on his own, has Ineffable behind him, but they are not high in health. They don't have their healer around. They're going to have to fall back. That 99 turns into 100.
And it just feels like, you know, that early start that Khan gives you every time is paying such big dividends for Fnatic. It's essentially a free fight victory, because when you lose a frontliner like that, no one else is really even in a position to help or peel. Like I said, it's a very hard ultimate to counterplay. So Armada just have to take that loss on the chin at the start of each round and try and find a way to recover fast enough, as if the margin for error against Fnatic wasn't slim enough, Goremizer.
And that's usually where we see Khan getting banned out, and I'm wondering if this game continues to go Fnatic's way, if that's kind of one of the changes we see Armada take going into the next one, just because it's had that impact at the beginning of every single round. It sets them back. That's a guaranteed essentially 50% for Fnatic every time.
They really, really love this pickup. Everyone does. Khan, like Alan said, the most banned champion so far across our just 2 days of competition, and I fully expect that trend to continue. When you have something as effective as a Dragon Punch with as little risk as a damn Midnight from Maeve, right? It's that combination of where is the downside, where is the weak point in that ultimate, and then you look at the rest of the kit and you say, my goodness, this is all so useful as well. It's really a no-brainer why Khan has been such a high priority ban thus far.
And it's one of those areas where I guess the technical weak point is it takes forever to charge. But a lot of these teams hold on to their ults. Once they charge it up, Bugsy, you can notice, he's not just using it because he has it. He's waiting until he knows it'll be impactful when it needs to be used. Otherwise, the rest of his kit is going to be what makes him strong.
Bugsy laying into the front line now as the last 50 seconds on the clock have started to tick out for Armada. They've already lost one. Seismic Crash is going to come through, but Bugsy shrugs it off, takes no damage, is recipient of no CC as he surges forward. The Primus of House Ico will eventually fall to the onslaught of 3 different members of Armada. Theo falls as well. The front line has been crushed. Fnatic have to fall back and regroup, but they only have 30 seconds to do so.
Trying to figure out where they want to go. And again, it's stalled at this archway where they were stalled last time, although last time they came into it with gusto, not having to use a single ult to really find a push for that payload. It was just on the merits of the fight. So with 10 seconds left coming into this, I'm looking for them to start getting aggressive. And there's going to be Bugsy actually using the ult. They're pressing the gas pedal.
And he does end up getting the kill there onto Ovum. This King Bomb is going to roll right into Bittner, instantly obliterating him. Bugsy, that was the bite behind his bark. Now with Bittner dead, Ineffable makes an easy second kill onto Bugsy. Theo's able to trade it out. He's staying here on the payload. He still has his support heal. But my goodness, this is a close one for Fnatic, and the respawn proximity advantage will be heavily in favor of Armada at this stage of the game.
Ekaz's proximity, or Ekaz's presence, is going to be big enough just to try and shut down some healing already. Bittner comes back, Bittner goes down. And the big thing for that fight, I mean, coming into it, you're about to have Fae Flight, but you do not have that grip anymore. You do not have Bugsy's ability to just kill one for free on the side of Fnatic, which has been setting Armada back. That's giving them that advantage early on. I think this point's actually going to be a lot more contested than the last couple.
That's an Immortal down as well, and both of those ultimates are very, very empty. They are just coming back upwards of 20%. Bugsy at 31. Neither of those will be up and available unless this point fight gets extended rather long. And without those 2 ultimates, if I'm being honest, the suite of ultimates from Fnatic, it's really not looking that scary to me. I mean, you just have a Dread Serpent that has been largely shrugged off by the front line of Armada. Most of the front lines running loadout cards to give them about 70% crowd control reduction. This is Armada's best chance.
And immediately Coriel goes, sets up on the point. He's going to be happy there. And this is like the perfect time to try and take the right fights. If you can get rid of Bittner early on, that opens up so much. The ult causing some trouble on the side, but you can see up into the air goes Fisheko, and immediately Armada, they just take cover.
The Faith Flight comes out. Barricade still up and available on the objective. 54% and climbing. The first kill, though, goes to Fnatic, and it's on the support. No more sustain for Armada. They need to find kills and fast.
Now looking for some good bombs. Does not have the King Bomb just yet, and that Dread Serpent going to set it up. Thiel finds 2 right there. Ovum falls down immediately after, and that's going to open up a lot of space for Fnatic to not only set up on the point, but to try and find a defensive line to knock Armada off their mounts before they can even get close.
And you know what, Gormarzer? That gets Fnatic right back to where they need to be. 100% charge on the overpower for Bugsy. He gets himself a staggering 70% during that skirmishing to get that guaranteed kill onto Ineffable there, and it looks like Fnatic, the resource management just seems to be a little bit better down the stretch. Armada not out of it yet, but things are looking grim.
Being able to find Fish Echo there might open up a little bit more, but you have to get rid of Bittner, Bugsy, Thiel, all the same, and you just don't have the damage. Ineffable's back, but he doesn't have his ult. He doesn't have that big game-changing play.
And it is going to wind down here in game number 1 in favor of Fnatic. But one hell of a show, I have to say, from Armada there. One I think they should hang their heads high after. Fnatic laughing that one off, but I think it's a little bit closer than anyone would have expected.
It's one of those fights that you go into it, outcome, pretty much what you expected. Fnatic win. The way they get there, they came out with way more scratches than I think anyone, even Armada, to an extent, really expected them to have. Going 3-3 with a team like that is something to be proud of. Now going into the next one, I feel like we might see, I mean, again, that's one of Fnatic's better maps. That kind of leans towards Armada going into some of the others.
Problem is, Gormeister, this is a quick set.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of time for Armada to learn, I think, going into this one, and being so much more experienced, Fnatic are a team that are going to learn much quicker than Armada. They're going to learn the styles, and you know, they don't play against each other, obviously, one in the PPL, one in the PGS. I think if they were going to take down Fnatic by some miracle, Armada needed that first game, but it's a best of 3, and we're going to need another victory for Fnatic to decide it. Desk, take us through.
It was a Fnatic victory, but boy, did Armada put up a fight.
They certainly did, and it looked like they might have been able to take it right towards the end, but that Khan ult coming up right at the last moment, going, all right, easy, disposable barrack, I guess, again, off the map, and, well, folks, there's really no coming back from that.
And the thing about that ultimate as well is when you throw them off the edge, it delays the timer even more.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I believe in when you see just Bomb King or someone later on, oh yeah, they're done now in the fight, but they don't even hit the ground until X amount of time. So when you're in those final stretches like that,
A few
it's tough.
seconds here and there is just enough to kind of turn the tide there, folks, and ultimately very well played by Fnatic, well executed. You could see that they suffered initially, but again, once they had that Khan ult, once they had overpower available, they just won every single point fight really afterwards, off the back of it largely. They took the early snowball and then they just held defensively.
And that's what made it easier for people like Bidner to be able to do the damage he did when the front line says, okay, I got rid of Barrack. Okay, now let's try and just burn down everybody else that is around. And Bidner's been on the Cassie a couple times so far during this, between yesterday's PPL finals. And then today we see him. But it's just when you have somebody that can be really consistent on picks like this, a pick that pretty much every team should have a couple people that should be able to play it, then it's good plug
If
check.
every member of your team hasn't at some point been like a Cassie main, I think you've got a problem, because that's pretty much where the best teams are right now. But just the ability to, again, flip-flop around targets, deal a lot of very precise damage. It's Cassie excelling because the space for her to be able to do so has been made by the rest of the team. And Fnatic playing well, playing cohesively. I'm looking forward to what they do bring in next, but I do wonder if Fnatic might want to make their path a little bit easier. We saw, especially early on, Ovum Zanara be pretty difficult for them to deal with. A large part of why they won that initial point, Armada. And I'm wondering if that warrants something like a ban here.
And I think the Inara looked really great. The Bomb King looked really great. So
Certainly.
there are still parts of that composition that were really shining through that. And Ineffable, for instance, on the Bomb King, when you had Inara drawing so much attention with Ovum piloting that and being able to...
Ovum picked up 70,000 damage that game on Inara. I mean, it just...
It's I would say the way he plays Inara is so aggressive and puts him in that position to do that in a way that's very entertaining.
It doesn't ever feel like it's super aggressive, though. It just feels like Inara doing Inara things, but he's just fragging all the while.
Yeah, sometimes his positioning, though, I feel that more than most Inara players, he isn't afraid to separate himself as much from those lines from the healer.
Just trust in the fact that when he takes these engagements, he's going to be able to go in there and just kind of clean up, just go... All right, Janitor Inara skin, just bringing the mop and bucket all the way through, and we're going to clean up everybody else left around here, right?
But it's a best of 3. I don't know how much janitor duty is going to happen on this next map, depending on what it is. Some of those places are hard to get to.
Some of the places are hard to clean as well. I mean, have you tried to dust all the statues in Serpent Beach?
Ugh, I don't even want to think about that. That just seems like it would take forever. Or try and just...
Maybe the Magistrate's archives with all those books. I know it's a TDM map, folks, but like I'm getting cold sweat just thinking about that.
What about the dangers? Just thinking on Splitstone, if you're around the fidget spinner, you're like, okay,
Yeah,
I need
just
to clean off these rocks.
Don't get pulled in. Make sure your hair is tied back. Make sure you don't have any loose clothing and stuff like that, or you get whoop, you get sucked all the way through. But it is Stone Keep where we're going next. This is also a Fnatic favorite, so we might have had that first map go to Fnatic on Jaguar Falls, which is something that they're very comfortable with, but also one which Fnatic has proven time and time again that they know how to play excellently.
And things like, we saw the Willow come out in game number 1. I don't think that it was as loud of a pick as it has been in times past, but here on Stone Keep, because of some of the more open vantage points with the Will, and we've seen Fish Echo on this map with it, or if they just have any blaster ideas that they want to bring to the table, it does lean itself towards that openness.
So, initial bans coming through. Armada taking away Drogo's, Fnatic taking away Khan. They know how much of an impact that Khan creates, and they just don't want to give Armada with the first pick potentially the ability to get that. So, Buck has been a consistent ban through a lot of these sets so far. Armada have taken them away, Fnatic took them away, and they're gonna stay with the Buck at this point. They don't want to give that into the hands of maybe his Bittner.
He's just such a great pick, not just when he's being supplemented by someone like the Genos, but he can do fine on his own with his survivabilities. I got this, it's okay. You don't have to always have your eye on me.
He flank, he tank, he also bulk up as well.
Yeah.
Very, very, very hard to kill. Fnatic, last ban available. Certain picks here, I don't think Fnatic are really worried about something like a Furia. I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see a Makoa ban come out here, but they might be considering Inara over that, based on Ovim's efficacy previously.
Well, it's going to be the Willow. Okay, so Armada has run this before as well, and Fnatic don't want to lean this way in their composition. This does leave Makoa open.
Which Armada will snap up immediately, but then Fnatic can just take away some of Armada's power picks in the way of champions like Inara. They can maybe grab the Fernando as well, or even grab the Fernando Furia if they want to run that combination back. And that's exactly what it will be. You have that open, I think you've got to take it. It's two very powerful re-engagement tools right there.
That's the thing. If you do find yourself down and out for a moment, having something that can bring yourself back into it, then you don't have to worry as much about completely nailing the setup each time. But the Bomb King was a powerful pick for Armada previously.
Do you want the Cassie here, though, is my big question. Maybe in favor of something like Leon, which has been the primary counter to Fury under a lot of circumstances, but it's actually the Inara, which looks like it will be swapped to an Hobbit for the time being. I would like to see if we have a double frontline come out of Armada. They get that online early to prevent Fnatic from drafting something else, leaving Fnatic with the option to maybe go solo frontline here, but I would be half expecting almost maybe a Ruckus to come through.
I think Armada is also figuring they've done so well with sticking with this comfort. They brought it to a 4-3, so they think, let's keep the things that were working well for us and make adjustments elsewhere.
Fnatic then, hovering the Cassie, performed very well for them last game in the hands of his Bittner, as well as Barrack, which has been the flavor of the month. We've seen a bit of Ruckus come out of North America, but largely for European teams and the like regions, it has been the stay-at-home dad who's taken preference right now. So Fnatic, they have aggro tank, they have point tank, they have damage, and they have support. They're looking for maybe a bit of a flexibility in terms of the style of damage they're going to bring to round out the composition.
Some
Armada,
sort of mobility, potentially.
Yeah, so maybe something more flank-orientated here.
Yeah.
And Armada, they're currently sitting on Makoa, Bomb King, Inara. They need to support. It's most likely going to be Maldamba, which will leave her vulnerable to maybe a flank presence from Fnatic. They're also potentially looking for another damage dealer here.
So Shaolin has not been apparent so far.
Shaolin's been completely ignored this tournament.
I was talking to Gore about this yesterday, actually, when we were watching, thinking, man, Shaolin went from just always around to nobody's been showing him the time of day, but Armada decided to go with this pick.
And honestly, it's kind of useful playing into the Fernando Barrack, right? A very effective shield killer. You build Wrecker on the Shaolin, maybe not the Bomb King here, go for a Royal Subjects Bomb King with big AoE cauterize, and you have better efficacy with your utility, right? Application of these damage items. Overall, though, Armada might struggle a little bit because Furia's ability to shield, especially, is even if there's cauterize applied to these targets, is probably going to take most of them, like Cassie, out of the 3-shot range, push it to an extra shot to kill, and with Shaolin's DPS actually being not that great, draw time between shots is quite long, especially when being pressured by a champion like Xin, for example, could be difficult to deal with.
It looks like Fnatic did decide to go for of Xin to have that flank potential, and then...
I can appreciate that, and as well, Yomi on Stonekeeper is always useful just because you can lock off angles.
Exactly, being able to poke out of those windows. This is game number 2. Fnatic is currently ahead within the set, but Armada is proving that they've got some spirit with them. So let's go ahead and roll with game number 2.
Gotta be honest, I really do like Armada's draft here, and they will pull out the first Shaolin of the tournament, but you know, they have so much more, and I feel like as long as the Shaolin performs up to standard, which is not really a lot to ask, quite honestly. He was a power pick not too long ago. Yeah. I think Armada, again, have a real chance.
It's just one of those instances where Fnatic got a lot of picks that they are very comfortable with, so I'm kind of curious as to how they're going to run it, and more so how Armada plans to deal with it. There's a lot, I think, that can go well early on, but they really need to kind of establish it, I think, early, or else Fnatic is just going to start to snowball.
Well, into game 2 we go. Best of 3s all day today. Now just one victory standing in between Fnatic and the rest of this Summer Finals tournament. Armada looking for a incredible upset, probably the biggest upset of the day, I would say. The undefeated EU PPL team against the CIS PGS team that has been at LANs before, but yet to find their first win. They will pull out Shaolin. Here is his loadout for those of you curious. Grab a quick screenshot. All kinds of movement speed as well as CDR on elimination. A little bit of HP, a little bit of shimmer, of course, to get the resets on your mobility option. And he is going to go fishing and find the first shot of the game.
Yeah, Bullseye and Wanderlust are really, I think, the two key components that make Shaolin at this level so deadly. But you have to be able to live, you have to be able to find eliminations for it to work. Ekaz is the first one to go down.
That was pretty quick. Bugsy will find a quick second, third, fourth, and fifth kill for Fnatic as they make quick work of Armada this time around. But this is not exactly different from how the first game went, and Armada was able to shrug off that early defeat and find themselves back in a position here. Bittner may have just overstepped his boundaries as he goes down to Coriel.
Ends up falling, but at the same time, he ends up taking Ekaz down with him in a scenario that admittedly should have just been his death.
Yeah.
So still being able to find a win in a loss, and that I think is what Fnatic has always been able to do best. They get that 1v1 where they get a 1-for-1 trade, and then you come into this, and now they have the point.
Point control, very diligent there from Fnatic as well. They win the fight handily while at the same time always being control of the objective there. So they get it done basically mathematically as fast as you could ever imagine it getting done. Tanner's able to find one kill there to keep things rolling. And overall, it looks like Armada are just content to give up as much of this map as necessary here. They want to fall all the way back to their base, which isn't exactly uncommon. You might see teams with a little bit more confidence hold one choke point a little bit out further.
And now the way things are set up, I mean, we've been looking at Makoa kind of as this powerhouse. Hasn't really been able to do too much. Even that hook right there, not going to have a lot of follow-up off of it. And I feel like Armada, again, have all of the pieces in place for success. It's just being able to get there against Fnatic that's going to be the difficult part. And with the way things have been rolling, it just doesn't look like it's starting to, or it's starting to go a little bit their way. But I mean, on a defense, it's a little bit easier overall than on a point.
Absolutely. The stone keep choke can be one of the most difficult to break in the game, depending on your composition. Fnatic don't have a composition that lends itself very well to long-distance picks. They're going to be able to maybe use this Cassie to burst someone down, or at least poke somebody low enough where Fisheko can then dive and with confidence go find a pickup, find a kill, and then maybe get something going for Fnatic.
Well, the way things are set up for them, Fnatic really have, 50 seconds, which is plenty of time to try and crack this shell, but this is one of the more contested points, trying to figure out how to go through here, something they've done countless times against countless teams. So now they're just looking for those good early picks, but Deal is the one who goes down.
And that Shell Shield actually doing a good job blocking below the deck there. Fisheko running straight into that one. Coriel is going to find the return kill onto Bugsy, but Fnatic still have some legs to stand on in this engagement.
A stun into a Dread Serpent just to push him back, and again, get a little bit of control back in favor. Ekaz, at this point, is just looking for these shots from long range. He's looking to try and get a little bit of damage here and there, but he's looking at his team to kind of help set him up, and now that they're all back and alive, makes it a lot more difficult for Fnatic to not only pick him off, but to try and figure out how to approach this fight.
Last couple of seconds on the clock here for Fnatic. They have plenty of ultimates to work with, but they haven't shown great propensity to want to spend said resources to get these early leads. Bugsy will throw down the barricade, but it's quickly obliterated. However, it's Bittner from the left-hand side that it's going to find the first kill of this engagement.
Being able to get aggressive, Ovum now falling down behind Bittner, but not going to be able to find the kill. Ancient Rage going to be popped, and he's going to be looking for some kills. A beautiful hook onto Furia, but still not able to lock anyone down.
He is going to force out the Immortal from Theo. Everyone is still alive from Fnatic. A near perfect offense from them at the cost of just an Immortal for an Ancient Rage there. Fnatic have to be feeling good about that.
Especially because there's not any other trade I think that would be as worthwhile. There's not like a Drogo's on the other side that, okay, well, we have Dragon Punch, so we can get him next time. It's just, now you don't have Immortal. It was worthwhile for you. You still have 3 ults available on your team. And while Scout, it might not be as impactful, that vision, especially going into a round, is going to make it a lot more difficult for someone like Ekaz to actually get that upper hand, use his stealth, and find any of those shots early on. That 7-2-3 Bittner is going to be deadly for him.
A great start for Tenor, my goodness gracious. 7-2, 52,000 damage on the board after just 5 minutes of play, averaging a whopping 1,000 damage per minute of not even gameplay. When you factor in the 40 seconds of pre-round and in-between round time, this man is setting a blistering standard for all the DPS players out there in this tournament.
Don't know if you got to see, but Bomb King was attempting to bow there.
He tried.
He didn't actually get to start, didn't even get to say his phrase as that came through, similar to last round. 4 kills immediately. Ekaz this time living a little bit longer before the 5th kill ends up rolling through, but none of the ults that could have come through did, and the ones that did come through didn't make that big of a difference there for Armada.
72% and climbing now for Fnatic, a near flawless couple of rounds here on Stone Keep. You have to imagine that this is likely to continue here. Ovum trying to get down onto the objective, but he doesn't have an ultimate, and now he is too caught out. He's just going to fall. Things getting a little bit messier for Armada this time around as they begin to show the cracks in the experience of Fnatic, the undefeated EU PPL powerhouse, starting to shine true.
And I love the way Fnatic approach this fight, just because the immediate aggression they have coming out of them is to try and offset that stall.
Fishy.
That was a beautiful hook out of the air.
Yeah, my goodness. I know that that was a very bold ultimate to begin with, and I'm surprised that Ovum was able to actually hit that hook there. Fishy getting a little creative about how he wants to get into this backline and pick up a couple of kills.
So much on the line. Again, the aggression, I think, could have helped offset what would have been a stall. Unfortunately, I feel like the aggression turned into a little bit of over-aggression and ends up costing them a couple lives and a couple fights. But Fnatic were down around this same spot last time. They have a minute and a half, so there's still plenty of time to fight back. And all the while, they're charging these ults that are going to make a big difference in these fights.
Ovum looking to do some Ovum stuff, which is just take the matters into his own hands and just brutalize a backline with a brawler as best he can, but unfortunately he will fall. Tenor, the game this boy's having right now is just simply too much to handle for Armada. He has been incredible, nearly flawless, playing safe but getting aggressive at the right moments, and everything paying off for the Cassie player today.
And there's a lot of moments where it's like almost set up for Ineffable to find the kill. Even right here, he might be able to get it, but Bittner's just living
Big
forever
heal.
Through all of it. The heals come through, and he gets way more damage off because of it.
Jordy and Theo bail him out of a bad situation. Could have been one of very few deaths. I think he had, what did we say, 1 or 2 at this point?
2
Tenor
now,
sitting
yeah.
at 2 on a 9 streak as he climbs north of 12 killing blows. The only player above 5 killing blows, actually. I think I saw one other person have 5. Only player in double digits so far. 1,700 credits to spend. Even if he does die, Gore, he is going to come back 2 times as strong.
And that's like the unseen part of the game, right? The economy
God.
that's going through, and he doesn't even need the items. He's just finding these shots perfectly through little cracks, little corners, and with that, it's going to be 3 left standing for Armada. That Ancient Rage is doing a lot, but not anywhere near as much as you want.
You can see Theo recognizing greatness at the moment. Tenor is going off in this game. Theo's just sitting here with his shield up saying, young man, go to work, do your thing. A couple more kills. And this one's going to be all wrapped up in favor of Fnatic. Despite the nerfs for Xin, Pacheco still putting his hat in the ring and showing a great performance as well. 2 clean games for Fnatic will put them through.
After that rocky start, I want to say, through Jaguar Falls, that map looked perfect from them. I don't think I saw them make too many mistakes again. A couple of over-aggressive plays, but really they got what they deserved for those, right? Immediately getting killed, you get plucked out of the air with an overzealous ult, and you're going to end up feeling it, but then they just come back into the fight almost as though it's nothing. Bittner was just phenomenal the entire game.
Yeah, damn near flawless. And you can see the faces on Armada. Definitely not pleased, but I think and not too down on themselves. They, I think, expected this result, as did we, as did Fnatic, and it has come true, now come to pass. The undefeated EU PPL champions will move on and knocking Armada down to the lower half of the bracket.
Now going into it, they do have a matchup actually that's going to be affecting them. Burrito and Space Station are going to be the teams that ends up going against them. I'm wondering if Fnatic again is looking towards the horizon, or if they've kind of brought their vision back down to look at some of these teams.
Burrito, Space Station, that's two of the biggest names from the PGS in this tournament. They better be looking at the horizon because they've got a hell of an opponent waiting for them there. I can't wait to get that underway, but first we got to send it back to the desk.
So Fnatic move on after that 2-0 victory, and boy, was Bittner looking crazy.
Bittner's point-and-click adventure is the new chapter in this point-and-click adventure story that's going on. I mean, just demonstrates the power of Cassie when she is consistent. That's always been the issue with Cassie, right, is that she's okay unless you're hitting every shot, in which case she's great. And Bittner demonstrates exactly what happens when you are given the freedom to just be able to aim and not have to necessarily deal with too much incoming pressure.
And looking at the way you see Thiel up there, nice and in the face of the enemy team with the shield up, Bittner is just back throwing out these arrows, hitting them all. And that's just what you call consistency. You always want consistency, right? But it's a lot easier to ask for it than to actually execute it.
Absolutely. Always the case. And Fnatic, again, with a very rapid victory over Armada right now in the second game coming out of that. It's just a testament to how well Fnatic can really change and adapt things on the fly. I think they're a little bit taken by surprise by some of the early Armada tactics in map number 1, but seem to have no real issue with it in this second map overall. And sure, it's a different style of map. It's not the bright marshy, Jag Fallsy map that we're used to seeing Armada pretty much excel on, but it's definitely one where I think that they would have had a strategy for it, as they remarked in one of their early interviews. Fnatic just understood what they needed to do.
They clearly made some adjustments, and even though they got the victory in this set, you know that's a roster that's looking very critically at their play, and I'm sure after game number 1 they were not happy about the fact that it went as a 4-3. And Bittner was playing great in game number 1, was playing great in game number 2. A lot of them were, and they just carried over that same style that's worked well for them in the past.
Kept up the momentum. I don't think they'll be quite as critical on map number 1 as they might have otherwise been. Very much it revolved around, let's get overpower up and then we win the point. And until you have that overpower up the first time, sure, the team with a better neutral capture fight is probably going to have the advantage. So it'll be an interesting scenario. I think that they'll still have some critiques, but I don't think it'll be quite as heavy as we would otherwise expect. But again, map number 2, the draft was good, the execution was good. Fury, of course, playing a big part into all of that. But again, what I really liked was the synergy between Thiel and Bittner specifically, that defensive frontline style, which Thiel hasn't played quite as much, I guess, as either the point frontline or the aggro tank before. So it's really good to see that adjustment.
And on the opposite end with Armada, for instance, we saw Ovim on the Makoa, because that's what you expect him to play with that, but then it sucks because then he couldn't be on the Inara, which is obviously a really strong pick for him. But the way the bracket has turned out so far, that means Armada will be dropping to the lower portion as Fnatic move on into the next round. Their opponent will be either Space Station Gaming or Burrito. A heavy match indeed. Two of the sweethearts, the crowd favorites, and we'll have plenty to say about them later on. But Fnatic, do you think they have a preference?
No, I don't think they really do. Honestly, probably Burrito is based on the last LAN performance. They were the less strong team, but who knows what Burrito have been able to do in the meantime. I think that Fnatic will have done their VOD research, they'll have done their matches. They may have had the opportunity to scrim as well whilst they've been here, and they'll certainly have to try and to not be taken by surprise. It's the first time we'll be seeing the LATAM and the Brazilian representatives. The first time we're going to be seeing the South American playstyle coming through. So again, we've already seen contrast in what SEA brings to the table and what the CIS region brings to the table, and honestly, I wonder what we'll see that's new coming through now as well.
Well, don't forget, everybody, the first time we saw Burrito show out was at HRX, and what do you know? We have another HRX that comes at DreamHack just in November.
2 in 1 year? My goodness.
What in the world, guys? But the teams will be working their way, attempting to get into that bracket over there, which is going to be insane. You can buy your tickets at highresexpo.com. And it should be really cool, being it's a whole different venue back at DreamHack.
Yeah, you know, I'm taking back to the DreamHack Valencia vibes, which we had for the Summer LAN last year, and it was amazing to see how many people we just draw from other events, especially watching the Smite crowd there, right towards the end of the event, just fill up to the brim with people congregating from all directions. They heard the noise, they heard the vibes, they heard the shouts, and they saw the gameplay on screen, and we just had everybody join on in. And I can't wait to see what happens again. Hopefully we'll gain some new Paladins fans. Hopefully we can show the realm to the world, folks.
Hopefully we'll get to meet some of you. But after that victory, Fnatic are standing by for an interview. So let's take a listen.
Here with Bugsy and Guerra from Fnatic after their victory over Armada. Guys, Game 2 was a little bit more how I expected that entire set to go, but Game 1, Armada gave you guys a run for your money, scoring the first 2 points. What was going on in that game that was putting that PGS team out in front of the undefeated EU PPL champs?
They played great. We made some mistakes and they abused our mistakes and just kept the point.
So what going forward in this tournament when you have to look at your next matchup between Space Station and Burrito? Obviously, both of those teams have had great moments in the past. Which are you expecting to be facing, Bugsy?
Probably Space Station, because they won convincingly against Burrito last time. So unless Burrito managed to practice really hard to fix their mistakes, I assume Space Station is going to win again.
So far, Willow has been a relatively big pickup or big ban for you guys. Do you think that she's going to continue having that same kind of effectiveness overall throughout the rest of the tournament?
Yeah.
Most likely.
What is it about the Willow? Why all of a sudden is she being banned? Is she being first picked? You guys in particular have put probably the most emphasis on this character in the tournament thus far.
She has high burst potential. The dead zone is like instrumental of like how you want to play the team fights. That's basically Willow.
So what was going on with Bittner's mouse in this last match? He said it was broken, but yet he's sitting 12-2 or something like that.
His sensor basically.
Is he trolling? Or
no, his sensor is basically sometimes not picking up, so we need to get a new mouse for him.
All that Fnatic gear, I'm sure you guys can find a different mouse for him at some point. Guys, thank you so much. Congratulations on your victory, and good luck in your next match.